Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. On today's show, I want to examine last year's DCEU flops and ask, should James Gunn be worried about said flops? Because I think there's something connected. And I think it does go back to the Snyderverse. It does go back to the DCEU, and it does connect to DC Universe. Can Gunn's films make real money? Will they fail like last year's 4 DCEU movies? And it's a very, very interesting situation because Gunn has a plan, but it's a Gunn plan. So will it be an underwhelming plan? Will it hit big? Will this Superman movie have huge interest? Or did last year's DCEU movies give us a bigger clue on what's going on? Because I think there's a lot to kind of delve into with last year's failed movies. And I think the point is, you know, everyone said the Flash movie failed because of Ezra Miller, but ultimately so did Blue Beetle. So did Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Nearly forgot that one. But they all flopped. So the question is, why did they flop? Was it because Gunn already said that those basically made us think that those movies didn't matter? Maybe. Or was there something else? Because let's be honest, the DCEU wasn't making big money. Even before then. I mean, Aquaman made $1 billion. It's the only $1 billion DCEU movie. The Snyder movies did okay. But then when you look at Shazam, barely made any money, made a profit because it had a low budget. Then you have Birds of Prey, flop. They're all flops. Basically, after Aquaman, you could basically say that they were all flops. But last year's movies are kind of very important because they're the bridge from what's finished here to what Gunn is doing over there. Will the mainstream audience really come in to watch Gunn's DC movies? And I think that's the very, very interesting question here. And I think I know what a lot of you are going to say. No. A lot of you do believe that DC Universe will fail. And I think there's a lot of logic to that argument. Right now, it's difficult to see $1 billion Superman movie. I can't imagine up $1 billion for James Gunn's Superman. Where's that money going to come from? So, if this is the case, what made people give up on DC? Or in comic books in general, but I think DC was a bigger problem before the MCU was, obviously. But Man of Steel did okay. BVS did okay. The Snyder Cut did okay on streaming. Wonder Woman was a great success. The first Suicide Squad movie also did really well, although critics and a lot of fans hated it. Money-wise, the movie did okay. It's only when Snyder was pushed out when the real problems actually happened. And Hamada came in and made cheap, awful movies. That's the truth of the situation. So, has Gunn got big budgeted films to make? Is Superman a big budgeted film? Or is this a budget, cheap Superman movie? But you've got to attract the people to watch it for you to have a hit. Already the costume hasn't gone down well, the Superman costume. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I think definitely there's a lot more to last year's failed DCEU movies than meets the eye. Now, some people will just blame Snyder, but I genuinely think that's lazy thinking. I think you've got to blame the people who made the mistakes, the people who drove Snyder out. There's been so many different creatives since Snyder left. You know, Johnsonberg, Hamada, now Gunn. Because as I said from the very beginning, DC Universe and DCEU are not a different franchise. Yeah, it's a different universe, if you like, but literally he's using some DCEU stuff. And it's born from the DCEU. He used the Flash movie as a backdoor pilot. And it's very interesting if we focus on the Flash. Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary since that movie failed. That movie wasn't a good, consistent movie. It had okay things about it, but it also had goddamn awful things about it as well, and no one can deny that. That movie was a disaster, and it had Michael Keaton's Batman in it. How does a film with Michael Keaton's Batman in it fail so hard? Everybody thought the movie could do well because of Michael Keaton's Batman. So what's the problem? Well, the common denominator is that Henry Cavill was basically done dirty in that film. Zod's in the movie and he's done dirty in the movie as well. We know that. It was a year. It was the 10-year anniversary of Man of Steel's release when that movie was released, give or take a couple of days. It didn't feel like a celebration of the DCEU or the Snyderverse. There's no question. People have been boycotting DC since Snyder left. It's the truth. And it's gone on. So are people going to support Gunn's Superman movie? It's the question I've been asking. It's the question that you've been asking for a long time. Some people, well, Gunn's fans believe, no problem. Snyder's in the past, move on. But there's some people who believe that Gunn's movies and universe will suffer. And I'm not convinced that Gunn's universe is going to be the big success everyone thinks it's going to be. I'm not saying for sure it's going to fail, but I think when you look at it right now, there does feel an aura of, I can't think of the word actually, of underwhelmment, if you like. It's underwhelming. I don't feel there's much excitement around what's going on. I don't feel hype. It doesn't help when the people you cast are pretty much unknown. You know, I understand you need an unknown to play Superman. But in terms of the actual other characters, they're not well-known people. So who's going to come and watch this movie? Well, hopefully DC and Superman fans and the mainstream audience. But there are other films around the release date like Fantastic Park and a brand new Jurassic World movie, which is clouded things. What will people go and watch? Fantastic Four or Superman? I don't believe we're in an era where people can afford to watch both. You know, there's a cost of living crisis. In America, around the world, there's a war. It's not that easy for people to go and pay for all these movies. And I think people are kind of picky because they know entertainment isn't what it was. I think people are very, very picky about what they watch. And there's no question about that. I think no one can even doubt that. But this is not just even about Superman. It's about Gunn's whole universe. Gunn's universe does sound interesting. Superman, Supergirl, The Authority. We don't know anything about Wonder Woman movie and what's going on. We've got a Paradise Lost streaming show. Hardly as exciting as a movie or what Zack Snyder gave us with that first movie and in BVS in terms of Wonder Woman. So I can't wait till next July because I think we're all intrigued whether this is going to be a success or not. I think Gunn certainly thinks he can do it. But it's going to be interesting. We've just found out as well that Blue Beetle will get his own animated series on Max. A flop of a movie now being reduced to animation. And the director of that movie is like, we're back in animated form. Not even in the cinema, but on streaming. Because as I've said to you before, Gunn, because every studio has to do a certain amount of things on streaming, a certain amount of percentage streaming. Gunn doesn't choose that. He has to develop streaming projects, and there lies the problem. And they're shit. They're not going to be great. I mean, look, Creature Commandos could end up being really good. There's a couple of other things that sound interesting, but, you know, obviously the cinematic stuff is where you would imagine. We still don't know about Swamp Thing. I spoke last week about the Batman and Brave and the Bold maybe being the same movie, because there's no development on Brave and the Bold. There's never been anything but the director, Andres Muschietti, announced for that movie. So that's very, very suspicious. And in terms of Swamp Thing, the director is attached to do a Star Wars movie as well. And it looks like he's doing the Star Wars movie first. So we could all be dead by the time they start developing Swamp Thing. So it's interesting. It really is. But I do believe there's more to last year's failed movies than it being a DCEU problem. There are people who will not go and watch DC Universe. It's obvious. There's people who are not going to support the Gunverse. And you may think it's only a small amount of people, but every person who doesn't go to the cinema is a problem, because many people are not going to the cinemas anymore. Here's the problem. If you look at Superman the movie, even Superman Returns and Man of Steel, young people, teenagers, were all going to watch a Superman movie then. You know, you could argue that Superman Returns made under 400 million. You can argue that Man of Steel didn't even make 700 million. It was still good, solid money for an origin movie and a record, you know, the box office records back then. But, you know, and I think Smallville was a huge factor. Smallville had just come off the air. When Superman Returns was out, it actually was still on the air. You know, young people were interested in Superman around that time because of Smallville. You know, young people are on TikTok now. We know that. Are teenagers really going to go and watch a Superman movie? I think the problem is that the superhero trend has gone. So to make money off a superhero movie, you have to be Deadpool and Wolverine. You have to do something incredibly special. So it's interesting. Are young people now, since, you know, Smallville's gone off the air, what, 2011? So it's over 10 years since Smallville hasn't been on TV. And, you know, Superman was quite popular when Smallville was on the telly. Smallville made Superman popular with the young people. I don't think the TikTok generation are going to watch Superman as much as I love him. As much as I love this character, I don't think that's going to happen. It's a bit like what we discussed with Doctor Who. RTD going on and on about the TikTok generation. They're never going to go and watch your shit, mate. Forget it. It's not going to happen. They don't watch telly anymore. And they barely go to the cinema anymore. So there's evidence that DC Universe actually won't be that successful. What is my prediction for Superman, James Gunn's Superman 2025? At this moment in time, I'm looking from around 500 to 550. That is my official prediction for Superman next year. Around 500 and 550 million dollars at the global box office when all is said and done. That is what I think is going to happen. Now, that will be less than Man of Steel. There will be excuses galore, of course. I don't believe if that movie makes that money that they'll stop them. They won't. There's a plan. I think for the short term, he gets to make Supergirl. Well, not him, whoever he's put to make it. He gets to make the Authority. But I think if those, you know, if Superman doesn't make money and Supergirl makes even less money, do you understand? And then you've got the Authority that doesn't make money, then sooner or later they'll stop him. Because I did say from the beginning, this wasn't the right way, you know, a connected universe. I said, get talented people in to make their own comic book movies, whatever they are, whatever characters they are. They don't have to be top drawer characters either. Let talented people make unconnected DC movies. That was the way to do it. In other words, have a Dark Knight trilogy. Matt Reeves the Batman, the Joker, do these different kind of universes. That's what DC should have been under Zaslav and Discovery. This interconnected thing, I don't think is going to work. But we'll see. I'd love to be proven wrong. Definitely. But, you know, I think that's the way that we should have never gone back to this connected universe. I think the problems with the DCEU put a connected DC universe, put people off a connected DC universe for life. So I think there are genuine issues. And yes, I do like Zack Snyder, but I don't want the DCU to fail. But I can't see where the money's coming from. So 500 to 550 for Superman. How much will Supergirl make? I think that film will make even less. So you could be looking at a lower box office. The only, I mean, I don't see how, unless if she's in Superman, she makes a good impression. This was a mistake, everyone. As I said, individual, alternate movies with, you know, directorial visions, artistic integrity. So, as I said from the beginning, allow Gunn to build his Suicide Squad universe in his own little corner. Allow another talented director to, you know, to do other characters, right? You know, to do a Dick Grayson movie, not to do a Nightwing movie, stand alone, or maybe a trilogy, and then get someone else to do something else unrelated. That was the way to do it. But they went with this because they're greedy, because they're talking about gaming, streaming, TV, and movies. But to do that when, like, the superhero genre isn't as popular as it used to be, come on, everyone. Come on. We've been here. Me and you have been doing this dance, doing these conversations since July 2018 when I did my first video. I've aged a bit. You know, things have happened. We released the Snyder Cut. We had a lot of fun. You can see that the enthusiasm around my face isn't the same. Excuse me. The enthusiasm around my face is not the same as it was when we were talking about the Snyderverse. That was exciting, wasn't it? Man of Steel BVS, watching the trailers together. Suicide Squad, that was exciting. Wonder Woman, that was exciting. Even the build-up to Justice League was exciting until we knew what it was going to be. And then we had the excitement of the Snyder Cut, and I really enjoyed Aquaman as well. So it had, you know, those were amazing days. And then we had the excitement again of Cavill coming back, but then he didn't come back. I don't feel that excitement anymore. I'm intrigued with what Gunn's doing. I think, you know, the thing is with James Gunn, you're kind of attending a car crash, aren't you? And you're eating your popcorn and saying, oh, yeah, this looks interesting, yeah. I wonder what happened here. And I don't want it to fail. I want to be wrong. I want this to be $1 billion movie. I want a great Superman film. But I think what happened last year is connected and will be connected to DC Universe. Because what's different? What is different? Now, you can argue that more people want to see these James Gunn movies. Maybe they will. I'm not categorically saying, I'm giving you an opinion. You know, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not telling you definitely, but I'm just telling you that you know what I wanted from the beginning when Zaslav came in. Of course, I would have loved Zack to restore the Snyderverse, of course. But away from that, I would have liked unconnected movies by people with a vision who understand these movies. Because Gunn can bring in different directors, but he's controlling them. It's his vision. And we discussed, he does the same things all the time. Superman has, you know, he's got these different characters who are going to be, you know, grade B underdogs at the end of the day. They're going to be his Guardians of the Galaxy in a Superman movie. Isn't that really what's going on here? You know, Creature Commandos is an animated Guardians or Suicide Squad. Basically, The Authority is another Guardians of the Galaxy, again. So there's a pattern there. There are red flags there. It's not about hate. It's not about, you know, being against James Gunn. It's about being open to what's truly going on. And as I say, I don't see a bigger audience for Superman than 550. And I think they probably thank their lucky stars. I don't think this is an expensive movie either. It'll be interesting to see. We still really don't know what the budget is. And they're really trying to keep that budget under their hats. Don't be surprised if it's about 100 million. This could be the cheapest Superman film ever made. Because I don't think a lot of money was spent on this movie. You look at the Superman costume and it looks like someone's taken Henry's costume and gone, right, let's put some collars there, let's brighten it up a bit. Do you understand? It's like the same costume with bits put onto it, and it is a lighter suit, it is a brighter suit. It'll be interesting. Now, he claims he's doing something very different. I hope he is. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he creates a brilliant universe and we can all enjoy it. Even the Snyder fans may be turned around if it's good enough. I don't think that they would because their loyalty lies with Zack. But if he does, you know, something great that I love, I'll be the first one to say yes. But we're talking, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. And I think it's important to talk about these things because, you know, there's certain videos, there's certain content creators that won't say anything negative about Gunn, that refuse to talk about the red flags. The ones who weren't suspicious about the delays of those 4 movies when Discovery took over. Oh, it's, you know, it's COVID, it's, you know, it's VFX. Remember all those arguments I made with you? That it was never VFX. They said they were going to make the movies better. Those 4 movies last year, they delayed them by a year because they were going to make them better. Were they better? No, they were fucking worse. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom there was a better movie there. Again, same as Shazam! Fury of the Gods. That was going to be a great movie as well. Blue Beetle, I don't know. I don't get it. I do get what went wrong with Blue Beetle. It wasn't a totally terrible movie. I think the lad who plays Blue Beetle, Hugo Reyes, no, not Hugo Reyes, that's the guy from Lost, isn't it? You know who I mean, right? Who plays Blue Beetle. Good lad. I was excited by his casting. But there was lots of issues. It was the typical kind of new Hollywood mindset, which was really problematic. And as I say, the Flash movie was a disaster. You know, again, I'll say to you, you've all read the Flashpoint comics, or a lot of you have, and watched Flashpoint from the series. Flashpoint, my friends, could be a great movie. We've all seen the Flashpoint paradox, right? Most of us have. You could make a proper movie of Flashpoint with evil Diana and evil Aquaman and all the shit that goes on in that graphic novel. But you take like Bruce Wayne's father's version of Batman, right? Away and swap him for Michael Keaton. Now, as much as I love Michael Keaton, and at first I was, ooh, but when you think about it, Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Batman in a Flashpoint universe, that would have been amazing. If they actually stuck with that comic, what did they give us? Sasha Calle's Supergirl. I think Sasha Calle tried her best, but the only reason she was cast is because the director wanted a Latino person to play Supergirl, because he's Latino too. So I don't think there was a big search. The search was small. I didn't think she was horrible. I didn't think she was brilliant. This new Supergirl, I think, is really good casting. So again, my reservations, I hope they're wrong, and we get something great. You know, Superwoman, what is it? Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, that's it. It's a great comic from what I've heard. But is there an interest there? Again, we have to wait and see. Can Gunn get it right? I don't know. All I can tell you is it's very, very difficult for DC Universe to have the success of Marvel Studios. And make no mistake, everyone, this is what Zaslav wants. This is why, everyone. You know, we get in this interconnected universe with games and films and TV and streaming. Because they want to get that success that the MCU once had and lost. but it's a plastic success. You know, WB have been trying to do this since they brought Nolan on. The only reason Goya got to tell his Superman movie is because Nolan was involved and he did the Dark Knight trilogy, and they thought, yeah, mate. And it kind of didn't work out like that totally. Even though I love the Snyderverse and I love Man of Steel. And I think Goya's a wonderful writer. I know that you all don't agree with me, but I do. And I think his writing on Man of Steel was great. I think it was ill-conceived to have Superman kill Zod, when you can literally have had them both banished to the Phantom Zone in a cliffhanger ending and then continuing in Man of Steel 2. Superman in the Phantom Zone with Zod and his other cohorts would have been amazing. But never mind. I still think Man of Steel is great. Had its anniversary last week. So, there are interesting facets here. And I spoke about this the other day, that there's so much great Superman media in the past 50 years that Gunn has got a lot to compete with. Let's look at this. We've got the radio show. Now, it may not be for you, but people, you know, older people still like that. And it was great at the time, it was groundbreaking. And they created a lot of the stuff that's in the comics today. Then there's the New Adventures of Superman starring George Reeves, Phyllis Coates as Lois, then Noel Neal as Lois. You had Superman the movie and those other 3 movies. You know, they weren't, you know, Superman 4 wasn't great, but Reeves being involved even in that film kind of lets you enjoy it to a point. And then there's Superboy. Then there's Lois and Clark. Then there's all the Bruce Timm animated stuff. Then there's Smallville. Then there's Superman and Lois. Then there's My Adventures with Superman. And God knows what I've missed out. Man of Steel, of course. Superman Returns. The Snyderverse. So it's all there. So he's got a lot of, he's got 50 years, over 50 years of media, Superman media and DC media to compete with. Can he do it? Because he's not a DC man. James Gunn is not a DC man. James Gunn is a Marvel man. When I look at him, I think, you're a Marvel man. And we're getting all these MCU people now working in DC Universe. Is that a good thing? Or is that a bad thing? As I say, there's elements of his plans for DC Universe that excite me. I like the idea of having a Green Lantern in Superman and having, Kendra Saunders, Hulk Girl in it. But this is a Superman movie. It kind of seems weird. As exciting as that sounds, it sounds weird. And are you taking the screen time away and doing, as I said, a Guardians or a Suicide Squad in the middle of a Superman movie as well? So the people's, the public's reaction to Creature Commandos, which won't have a great audience, but people will watch. But I think it will be very, very interesting to see what the critics, yes, I am this time interested in what critics have to say about a DC movie. I'm not usually, because I can't stand or obey critics. I think they're a waste of fucking space. But I think this time it's going to be interesting. Will they shield James Gunn, or will there be an honesty? Whether they like it or not. It's very important for WB and Hollywood. If you can have a Superman movie that lights the blue touch paper, as what happened in '78, it's a domino effect for Hollywood being successful again. But I have my doubts, everyone. I don't believe there's a vibe for comic book movies. Now you listen, when and if, and most probably, Deadpool and Wolverine's successful, they're going to say, you see, there's no, comic book problems. Doesn't mean that. It's one film. Spider-Man No Way Home made money. It doesn't mean they're all back. That's the thing. So, I'm going to be very, very, I can't wait to the release of Superman. Because I'm interested how this is going to do. Because, I've said this before, I love Superman. I love him. And I'll stand up to anyone who says he's irrelevant. But the truth is, who's coming to see Superman in 2025? Apart from us lot. That's what you've got to ask yourselves. Is Superman relevant to the general audience in 2025? Right now, I'd say no.